welcome to your shit, Aly. My shit, your shit. How to heal that shit.
I think that by the nature of the title of this podcast, it's safe to assume that there is some adult language and
content.
Reference to adult content. However, if for some reason you accidentally thought that it was 101 ways to heal your snot, or your... It's not a shit podcast. A mo, a mass, a mat, a mom, a martyrs, a mant. 101 ways to heal that shit.
Oh my God, if you only could see what's happening right now.
What's going on?
If you could only see what's happening right now. I mean, I almost need to videotape myself. I'm hiding in a closet. I have this thing totally jimmy-rigged. And I was trying to answer the phone. I had the little tripod between my knees, the recorder in my like armpit. The phone was like ringing and I couldn't get to it on my phone because I had the Apple Watch on, but my phone was recharging. So it wasn't ringing my Apple Watch. And if I answered the phone on my Apple Watch, it wasn't going to work. Oh my God, help me.
That is fucking hilarious.
I've been calling you nonstop since like 7:45. And I was even waiting in the closet for you.
God, you're not actually the first person to say that.
Of course, Aly's not in the closet.
What's going on?
One thing I wanted to point out before we get into our second episode is all the comments that we got from the first one.
Yeah.
The dad thing, there's that. But I wanted to bring it up before we start the second episode because it was a heavy thing, right? And I thought,
yes.
Well, just a little. Why didn't I actually reveal that for so long? It's not like it was a secret. It was more like, really like protecting him, like I did when I was 8 years old. History moment here. I was on the stand against my dad. When I was 8, I had to go into the stand and testify against him, and I totally lied on stand. But I ended up being the one that actually put the gavel down, so to speak, because they were like, well, anyway, that's a whole other story. I was trying to protect him, and in my innocence, I actually was like, no, it was the white stuff that squirted out, and everyone's silent in the room. Oh God, help me. But I got so many messages about that, as you could imagine, right?
Right.
One in particular, I'm not going to give away names, but I just want to say, it's important to note that people are really strangely liking us. They like us, Aly. Not that that's strange.
Of course they do, darling.
This lady reaches out to me and she's like, oh my God, I watched your documentary again after the podcast, which is why we needed a commercial. I've had requests for a searching commercial, like where to get it and where to watch it right now.
If you want to see Searching for Angela Shelton, just go to searchingforangelashelton.com. There you'll find lots of different ways of watching the documentary. You can also get licenses to do public viewings as well if you want. But just go there. You'll find all the resources you need for watching Searching for Angela Shelton.
Searching at... What's it about? Anyway, she says, I watched the documentary again after the podcast and it was a whole other experience. Because back then she was mostly in denial about her own abuse. And then she says, a weird thing for me now is a decade later, as I watched it and connected with it, I still managed to remain in denial about the fact that my dad was abusing me. It's kind of incredible to really see how strong that disassociation was. And so I sat listening to your podcast and you shared about how your dad greeted you, and it normalized my experiences with my own dad because she was 27 when it officially stopped, but he was still in her life and still doing weird boundary crossing stuff. And she goes, you're the first person I've heard talk about their dad still being abusive and violating them as an adult. And she goes, my brain was having a hard time figuring that out. And she goes, I think it was I was lying to myself because he couldn't have wanted to abuse me as a child and then again as an adult. as an adult.
Right.
And it was like, oh yeah, that's a major thing. Like that's why I think it's important to be so honest and upfront about this stuff, because it's gonna help other people, like, oh, look at their own stuff. Like, oh yeah, whoops. It's okay, people, you're okay. We're here for you. Well, actually, not really. I'm in a closet. You got to deal with your own shit.
It is. It's heavy shit as well, because, you know, there's one thing talking about abusing children and you know, if someone's a survivor of child abuse, but that perpetrator is still abusing them as a grown adult. It's a whole other thing to unpack, to address, to you know, that's a whole other thing. That's you've got the child abuse, and then you've got this other incredibly awful thing happening as an adult, which I don't know how many books there are written on that. You know what I mean?
Seriously.
Like people are talking about child abuse, they're talking about domestic violence, but what about that area in between where you're the grown adult who's still being abused by a parent?
Yeah, and you're almost like brainwashed. Because definitely you can repeat the pattern and then get into a relationship with a person that's just like your dad or your mom or whoever it was. Like, you can just repeat the pattern that way, but it's a whole other different thing when it, like you're saying, when it's like them. So anyway, I just wanted to address that, be like, that'll be a continued conversation. That's major shit right there. We are up on Spotify now. Yay.
I'm going to go get a mic.
Okay, this is going to be fun.
But are you going to get a mic? You have the mic. So you've got a mic.
I have
They're just waiting for me to get a mic.
I have a big boom, like a big giant boom, you know, aimed at my face right now.
Again, you need to brag. I mean, I'm just saying. Size isn't everything, Angela.
That's a lie that somebody told. Okay, back to our usual show. Our usual show. This is number 2.
Can I interrupt for a moment? We're both relatively new mothers of daughters.
Yeah, same age.
So
roughly.
we both have a 5-year-old daughter, and I also have an 8-year-old daughter. Now that you're a mother with a daughter, how does your perspective on this kind of thing change?
Oh, wow. Perspective on being a mother. And that's healing also. Because having a daughter, young, I mean, my daughter's 5, watching her be so free with her body is really, really healing. For me to like, because you see how, first of all, it brings up, oh my God, how terrifying it is and how easy it would be for perps or disgusting people to take advantage of little kids.
Yeah.
Because she's so free and she's just like, that's my vagina, that's my vagina, here, smell it. You're like, oh my God, get out of my face. But she's so free, and she's just like so free with being naked, with playing, you know? And it's like, oh my God, it's years ago I probably would have gone into like freeze mode. But now I find it so cute, and I encourage her to be like, yep, that's you, kiddo, love yourself, and wash it.
I find that so with me, I there are sort of two sides to this, because there's the one side of, okay, don't let my own trauma infect hers. Right? So this fear that I have of what can happen to her, I have to make sure that I don't project that onto her and say, no, you can't do that. No, put your clothes back on, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't, right? But it's hard, right?
How
it's
do you catch yourself?
It's a constant filter in my
dialogue.
brain. Yeah. So it's a constant filter, because I was also left to my own devices, to put it politely, during my childhood. So a lot of bad things happened. I fell off things. I have a lot of injuries. I ran off with strangers when I really shouldn't have, and all this stuff. And therefore, the natural inclination is to become a helicopter parent, right?
Right.
Just do everywhere she goes. So, of course, then as a thinking adult, and you have to counter that, right? So you're being the anti-helicopter parent, and then but you don't want to push too hard as well, right? So it's like, yes, please go run, be naked, right? Like, please be naked some more, right? Like, so it's like this very, very conscious balancing act of just trying not to screw up your child while also being terrified for them. We both know the statistics so well. And now, in fact, the world is a little scarier, right? Because now there's YouTube, there's weird stuff kids are doing, and all this stuff. And it's challenging. But to go back to what you first said, your first response when I asked you this question was that it was healing for you, right?
Yeah.
Which it was for me too, because I had to put my shit away.
Right.
I cannot be in a relationship with my children and have a sword sticking out of my stomach, right? And have a healthy relationship with my kids. So I had no choice, right? But to go, you know what? I know what healthy is, right? I'm going to do that now, right? I'm done. I'm done with this, right? I pull out the sword. I put down that stuff. I stop drinking too much. I stop doing any of that stuff because now it's all about you, right? And I am not going to fuck you up.
Right.
Now, I probably will.
Probably in some other way.
But yes, it does bring up a whole different element of things when you've been abused and you have a daughter, which of course is the case for many, many, many millions of women.
And then they put it on top of them. Like they project their own stuff, and I've talked to many survivors, and also the mom perps too, who put their kids into the abusive situation. Like now, as a mom with the same age kid, I cannot even fathom how you could do that. It doesn't compute in my mind. Like you have to be so wounded to allow that to happen to your kid. But that's something that's happened to a lot of people, and worth mentioning is the moms that were abusive. And not only were abusive themselves, but then put their kids into situations. Right. Like my stepmother used to open the door and be like, there you go. Walk right in to the dad who's laying there with a heart on in the bed. And you're like, what the fuck? So now, as a mom, when I see my daughter running around naked and being super free with herself, there have been moments that I feel like that moment of the breath goes in, because you're like, there's an opportunity right there for a perp to take advantage of that, And so what I've been doing is practicing, or just being with her, is I'm 100% honest with her. Even, anything, and she, thank God, hasn't asked me if there's a Santa, because you know what I mean. If she asks me, I'm gonna tell her the truth. I have an agreement with her. I will always tell you the truth about anything, and you can come to me with anything for your whole life. I don't care what it is, no matter how bad. You have a safe place with me your whole entire life, and for the most part, I feel like she's really listened to that. And she, what was the one thing? Oh, yeah. Driving to school. Of course it's driving to school. Entering there's like this little circle that you drop them off, and you have like 2.5 seconds. And they have to get out of the car and like meet the teacher and walk down this thing. And it's not a place to park and discuss things. And she's like, Mom, so you were talking about babies and like remember when you said you need a man and a woman? I was like, uh-huh. She's like, well, why? Why do you need the both of them? And I was like, oh, God. Well, this is a big discussion as we're pulling into the turnaround. I can give you a Cliff Notes version. Because the woman has the egg and the man has the seed. and it's like, it's gonna, oh God, make it grow. The two need each other. And she's like, oh, well, where is it in the man? I'm like, it's complicated. But for the short answer is, it's up in his penis. And she goes, what? And I'm like laughing to myself, and she goes, well, where is it in the woman? I'm like, well, it's like up in, like far up in your vagina, but it's more complicated than that. And she goes, what? And then we're pulled up. We're like parked. We're like there. She's got to get out of the car. And I was like, so basically, in a nutshell, this is why you another reason why you protect your vagina. And she goes, and know how to punch somebody.
Oh dear.
And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And so that, in a roundabout way, it was like how I'm dealing with it. And also like, she should learn how to punch somebody, number one, and know the value of her vagina.
I think actually the most important thing that you mentioned there was the fact that you have completely open and frank discussions with each other. So the chances of her getting in a situation where she's harboring a secret that then, is in some kind of behavior that gets perpetuated over and over again with an abuser isn't going to happen. Right? There's much less chance of it happening because
yes.
you've got open conversation.
I hope. That's what I try to always have a discussion with her like that. And she has kept a couple. She's like, Mommy, I have to keep a secret. And it was about a present that her and Daddy were going to make me or get me for my birthday. And I was like, okay, well if it's a present, then you have a little bit of wiggle room. But if I really want to know it, you better tell me. But she, I try to be very honest and open. And, I get creeped out about nudity personally, because when I was raised as a young kid, it was a lot of nudist colonies. Like my father used to take us to nudist colonies and like that. It creeps me out. So, but I have, when she was younger, we shower together. And obviously she's seen me naked. And now she showers by herself because she has this thing about showers. Oh my God, getting this child to wash her hair, for God's sake.
Tell me about it.
Oh my God. It's literally like she actually washed her own hair the other day. It was a miracle sent from heaven. But even like little stuff like that. And I use actually a lot of these techniques that we talk about, or that we will talk about. I use a lot with her. Like there's one of the holding in the reins and the breathing techniques. When she starts to freak out and have like little that looks like what could turn into a panic attack, I'm like, I take her through a couple of the healing techniques that we know now. What's been healing for you as a survivor being a mom?
I think the biggest thing is that I just had to unpack my shit and put it down.
And how did you do that?
I had to acknowledge it. So I had to acknowledge that. I'd already done a lot of work with just being with you and doing the stuff that we've been doing and acknowledging that it happened. And, I never kept the past a secret from myself, right? I was never in denial. But I'd be like standing there then saying, yeah, it was so funny. I was molested as a child, but there's nothing wrong with me now, is there? There were clear signs of a damaged person. And I think anyone could have seen that. And so I already had dealt with quite a lot of that by the time I became a mother. And when I became a mother, it was so necessary and so obvious that I this is my chance, right? This is my chance to not screw up someone, to raise someone into the world who will heal more than they break, who will leave it in a better shape than they found it. And God knows they've got a lot of work cut out for them. And so I how you can take something that you love more than anything else that you could possibly imagine And not do that is inconceivable to me, right? Like how could you not do that? Right? I don't understand that. So that's what drove me immediately, was to put myself aside, and not completely, obviously, because that would be unhealthy, but to put all this baggage and just put it down, look at it, go, okay, yeah, thanks, and throw it in the fire. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect person. I'm certainly not a perfect mother, but I am coming from that place, and just doing that was the healthiest thing for me. And for my, I've had body image issues and stuff like that. I can't do that, right? I battled this body image issue from a very early age, because my mother did it in front of me. She was always on this diet and that diet and this, that, and the other thing. And that, coupled with childhood abuse, really made me have seriously bad issues around my body and sex and all that kind of stuff. And so I had to put that down. Right? I cannot model that to my daughters. That would be the worst thing. Like, to me, the worst thing, one of the worst things for my child would be to be growing up thinking that she's fat from a very early age, and that's actually, 20% of what she's thinking about, that's in her head all day, every day, for the rest of her life, or even maybe more than 20%, 30%. And it mars how she sees herself and how she feels about herself and what she thinks she can accomplish in a career or in love or in anything else. That you can't have the cutest girl or boy, or you can't, all that stuff. You can't be an athlete because you're too fat, or something like that. And so that just had to stop, right? All of that stuff, all of the unhealthiest things about me just had to stop, because I was not going to model it to my children.
Awesome. I catch myself when I've caught myself quite a few times saying, like, because I am always like, oh God, heifer, over here, But I was raised in the modeling world. I mean, I am brainwashed. Yeah. 100% brainwashed. Right. I am a gordo right now in my mind. I'm not even at all. I mean, you look at me and I'm like, I'm thin in Wisconsin.
We do. I mean, you've got a couple extra
yeah.
From
I did gain weight for Eagle and the Albatross, but that's no excuse now.
Isn't that like 3 years?
Been a while, exactly.
Anyhow,
so I have to watch it with myself with saying things. That's a good reminder, and also like I have intentionally rephrased things with her after I've said things like that.
That can keep going from generation to generation, as it does. And I think that's obviously the key thing, and the key thing that you aim to do is to break that cycle, to be able to look at it and go, okay, you know what, this has gone on for generations in my family, and it ends here.
That we aim to do, Aly. That we aim to do. Because it's also our shit. You know what's crazy? Is years ago when I was in a relationship, and it was a family member of his that was probably 18 months, 2 years old. She climbed up on the bed and like spread her legs and like opened herself and was like, look it. And it was just, I was probably 22 years old, 21, 22. And I froze, and I immediately the next day signed up for therapy again. Because I was like, it just tweaked me. That there's those things that, like, I don't know how to describe it. Either you get like a flash of crazy memories, like flashback, or just like freeze, or just I'd protect that child. Don't keep the child away from everyone. That is you. You are that child. And just like the wave of emotion and feeling, and I signed myself up for therapy, like immediately.
I had once. I was in a relatively new relationship with someone, and she had a daughter already who was like 5 or 4 or maybe 4. And we went to an event where there was pony rides. And so the girl got up on the pony, and there's this fellow that's just leading the pony around a paddock by a little rope. And that was part of my very bad experience when I was a kid, like repeatedly over and over again. And so,
what was part, the pony or the boy with the pony?
The boy with the pony. So, like being dragged off.
Oh God, really?
Well, yeah, off for like a walk in the forest on the pony, and I hadn't thought about this. It didn't cross my mind.
God.
And she got up there, and of course, this is a kid that I love. That's my new girlfriend's kid, and I froze at that moment in time, but I was like, it was really hard not to vomit.
Oh, wow.
And then on the train ride home from this event, I burst into tears and was shortly dumped, actually, thereafter, because this woman's like, okay, yeah, no, not so much. I don't need to have issues that big. But you don't see it coming, right? You just don't. But we know that now, right? We know that these little triggers are out there.
Yeah, but you don't know when it's coming. It goes back like life is an Excel spreadsheet, and it's gonna happen. Mm-hmm. Those little breakdowns are gonna happen because this caused this, because you went through this, and then you saw this, and you're gonna have this.
Right.
Until you change that equation.
But even just staring it in the face helps a lot, I think. And like, for example, now I would have no problem having my 5-year-old climb up on a pony and have some guy, as long as I can see him, right, the entire time, and he's just walking around a paddock.
Yeah.
That's
one thing.
That wouldn't trigger me quite the same anymore.
Right. But that said, there are people, not but to take away from it, but like in addition, there's people that are on various stages of the pathway.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Like, because you might be in like super trigger happy mode, like early on, and we are at a totally different path, or part of the path now, and we will eventually get to forgiveness discussion, and that's like a whole other talk. That forgiveness discussion cannot be brought up to somebody who's early in the trigger phase,
right? Right.
Because you get mad.
Yeah. Yes, and certainly some of those sort of platitudes and those rather simplistic, forgive them and you'll be
exactly.
Cleansed.
Like, oh, give me a break. Yeah, like seriously, no.
I forgive you.
But I was on a speaking engagement early. This is like, I don't know, 2004 or something, and I had mentioned the professor, this like really regal lady. She was really awesome. She had asked me about my father, and I had made a joke about firing ranges, of like, line them up, take them all out, and she goes, oh, you're early in your healing. And I was so pissed. I was like,
that's so insulting.
Fucking bitch. But I was like, there was this part of me that's like, I really respect her, admire her, but fucking bitch. Like, what do you mean?
That fucking bitch was right.
She's totally right. And I'm like, there's a part of me that still believes in firing ranges. And there's a part of me that's like, I totally get what she meant. She was right.
Of course.
She was right. But I eventually got there, and I almost remember the moment that I got there, and I remembered her. I'm like, I see now. Also bursting into tears a lot, like you did on the train. Of just random things that bring it up. It could be, I remember you and I were together at my house, and you just got a worried look on your face. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about that.
Oh, right, good. Okay.
You smelled a flower.
Oh my
you
God.
went into a complete...
Oh my God.
You froze, actually. You were like, shoop, like you weren't even in your body. Like, shoop, your soul left your body.
I've forgotten about that until this very moment.
It was a beautiful flower, too. It was like what they made leis out of.
Yeah, isn't that a magnolia?
I don't remember which one. I could see it. It was like yellowish white, beautiful, good, amazing scent. And you smelled it, and it was like, there goes Aly's soul, just left her body. Bye.
Yeah, so that was very much something I hadn't even thought had anything to do with anything until it happened. Yeah, that was. Thanks for reminding me. Actually, I should avoid those flowers.
Or you're like, it doesn't affect you anymore.
Yes,
what?
Exactly.
Night blooming jasmine? No, it was big. It was like a big, beautiful. It was what they made lays out of. What do they make a lay out of? This isn't a call-in show, so we don't have people calling in like of our 42 listeners. Plumeria, that's what it is. I had a plumeria bush.
Does that have a sort of long, sort of fluffy stamen that sticks out?
Did it remind you of something?
No, not that, unfortunately. But plumeria smell beautiful, right? Sort of buttery. It's a lovely smell. I can smell it right now. And I'm okay. But I am okay. But yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, I smelled that and I froze. Yeah. Wow.
Do you remember why? Like, what is it about?
Well,
the
that flower was very common, or a version of that flower, a flower very similar to that flower, was very common in the country that I lived in the Far East, when I, experienced all the worst of my childhood trauma.
Smells.
Yeah, and of
intense.
course, I wouldn't have smelt that again for a long time. In Canada, and I was in Egypt for a while and stuff. I was not in tropical places, and it was a tropical country, and so suddenly, of course, I'm in your tropical backyard, full of incredibly beautiful flowers.
And I'm like, here, smell this, and your soul leaves your body. Oh, well. Whoops.
But that can happen. It really can. But I think people are so much more aware of being self-aware now.
Triggered.
Of doing the work necessary to address the shit.
Well, I guess so. Since we started all this, there are more talk shows and podcasts and books and self-help. I mean, the self-help sections are, my God, it's like half the store.
Well, I think people realized, as you did, that actually it was an epidemic, right? This wasn't a small group of people or stuff that people swept under the family rug, and that it was actually a huge deal. And if nothing else, a good market for books. A big market.
What do you do about triggers like that now?
I haven't been triggered in years.
Except just right now, when I said plumeria. I love you, Aly.
I find, as long as there's like a pack of smokes and a bottle of beer nearby, I'm just
That's
totally
hilarious.
Okay.
You know what? Let's do one.
What? You're gonna? No, don't bring me the flower.
No, don't bring me the flower. I'll do a technique that I learned. One of the things that I use all the time, and I actually use with Aurelia, it's the holding in the reins. And I forget where I learned this, but it is basically you are on a horse.
Right. Which is ironic, considering...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So let me just take you through it and have like a little, this is 101 ways to heal your shit. Oh wait, my shit. Oh wait, no, that shit.
Your shit. Our shit.
So it's holding onto the reins. So you picture that you are on a big horse. It's ideally like you're on a big ass horse. And you're holding the reins. So if you're sitting on a horse, you need to sit up straight, and your butt tightens. And your core gets tighter, and you kind of just pull up, and the back of your shoulders kind of go back, like if you're pulling, whoa. And you can even say whoa outside, or you can say you can say it in your mind, whoa. And you could do it standing up, you could do it sitting at your office, or if you're driving your car, or even if you're out walking your hike, you just kind of stop for a second and just whoa, whoa, whoa. And just that feeling in your body and the thought process of like you are actually controlling a horse, because I mean when you're horseback riding you actually have to control the massive animal. So you just pull the reins back. It can get you out of freaking the hell out. That's what I use with Aurelia when she's having a bit of freak out, or when you can see the beginning of a potential freak out happening. I'll be like, whoa.
What it sounds like to me is an exhale, right? Like that's what you're slowly blowing.
That's so funny because when I do it, I breathe in.
No way. Oh,
yeah,
no,
so
I do it as like I'm blowing out a candle.
Oh, that's funny. So it's like whatever works for you. So me, it's more of the inhale and the pull back, and I can feel my shoulder blades go back. And again, these are most of the things that we share on here are things you can do in your mind that nobody can see you doing. It's not like or in the closet, or in the closet, and it's something that you can do where you're not necessarily walking down your office, like, you know, pretending you're on a horse. You're walking down the office hallway like, whoa, now, whoa. So that's a technique that you can use to, just calm yourself.
Actually,
it's great.
Can I just interject for a moment?
Please.
It would actually be pretty funny. Like, let's say you're having a really shitty day and you work in an office or, you know, a sort of environment with lots of other people. And you're like, I'm having a shitty day. My anxiety's going up. Something's triggered me. Just get up and start like galloping slowly around the office. Like, clippity cloppity.
And then go, whoa.
The response of those around you is definitely going to lighten your mood.
And then go,
right?
whoa.
Like, that could actually work.
That's funny.
Sorry, but that really could work.
It's perfect.
I'm being totally serious. I think that would be awesome.
It is. So let's leave you with whoa.
Well, let's go. We might need a wrap-up moment, and in summary, how would we summarize this? Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to 101 ways to deal with that shit. Not this shit, not our shit, not my shit, not your shit, but that shit. And we look forward to investigating all 101 in separate podcast episodes.
Of ways to heal that shit.
I just mean like, stay tuned.
Oh, yeah. Stay tuned for more ways to heal some shit. Nice talking to you. I love you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast with Angela Shelton and Aly Drummond. The music today was composed and performed by Leah Finkelstein and Heather Stewart and the invisible didgeridoo.
Oh, we're going to get a didgeridoo. We're going to do it right now.